Hello Internet, welcome back to the 2H Media stream. We've got some great topics lined up today. I'm going to launch right in. We're trying to keep things short and sweet today. We are kicking off with our first topic. Jaguar Managing Director defends company after rebrand sparks confusion. The Managing Director of Jaguar is defending the luxury car company after it faced online criticism for a controversial rebranding decision. Jaguar last week debuted its new look ahead of its anticipated transition to an electric fleet. The brand appeared to replace its iconic leaping cat image with a more minimalist logo. A new Jaguar advertisement featured bright colors and figures dressed in unusual outfits but did not include any cars. The clip drew widespread criticism on social media, even garnering attention from ex-owner Elon Musk. Rodden Glover told the UK's The Times on Saturday that the move is part of a new strategy to compete with German car brands like BMW and Mercedes-Benz, which have long achieved consistent annual sales in the millions. "We're our very best when we copy nothing," Glover said, referencing one of the brand's new slogans. "Look, we're unveiling the brand at an art fair rather than a motor show. This is Jaguar being bold, doing things differently." Glover also noted the brand's new approach is not about diversity and inclusivity. He argued it instead represents breaking molds, living vividly, and creating objects of desire that are distinctive and different. And this is from Baltimore Sun. First discussion topic. Is there such a thing as bad press?
Yes.
Totally. The conventional wisdom is there's no such thing as bad press, but bad press is bad press.
Yeah.
This has gotten a lot of people talking about Jaguar. I don't know that that's going to result in them selling a lot of cars.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time in advertising. It's like, are we out for impressions or are we out there for sales? Because there's a lot of things that will get you a lot of attention and a lot of impressions. But are you interested in buying impressions with your ad campaigns, or are you looking at your bottom line? And sometimes you do need to announce things that aren't going to drive sales. Like you do have to announce, big CEO changes, things like that. You have to announce that. Is that going to drive sales? No. But when you're doing a rebrand, it should inspire people at some point to really choose your brand over someone else's brand. And yeah, there is such thing as bad press. And bad press, the definition of bad press is the press helping you achieve your goals? So we obviously are not on the in. We don't know what Jaguar's goals are. You can obviously imagine what their goals are being a car company. They want to sell cars. Aron's just bringing up some logos right now from the rebrand. But yeah, bad press is like, yeah, we don't want our brand being in the news unless it's going to help us meet our quarterly or annual goals. And from this one, I don't think this is helping.
I might feel differently about it if they were a smaller company. Right? Because if no one knows who you are, then there's an argument to be made for now people are talking about it. People weren't talking about it before. But people already know.
Yeah, this is a very, very old brand. This has got a lot of history, a lot of heritage. This is one of the older car companies that are out there. With again a lot of built brand reputation. So this is they're it feels like they're going in a completely new direction, that's for sure. This is definitely something that's different.
We can move the discussion conversation along because we've said is there such a thing as bad press? Absolutely. Does pairing a rebrand with a move to all electric make sense?
Now, I didn't read that in the article, if they're moving it to all electric.
Yep, that's in the article.
Oh, sorry, it is.
Yep. Second paragraph.
Yep, it is. Does a rebrand, kind of, if you're making big shifts, dramatic shifts with the company, obviously broadcasting those values out and how you're going to get there is important. So it feels like it's the right time. If you're going to say, hey, we're no longer going to build the sweet engines you've known us for, we're going to build other cool motors that you're going to want, that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. And then here's how we're going to do it in the story and that totally makes sense.
Which brings us to the real question, okay, doing a rebrand in tandem with your electric change, like that's a big shift for a company.
Huge.
That's a big shift for your brand and your market. That makes sense. Doing a rebrand now makes total sense.
Yes.
Was this it? No, for a bunch of reasons.
Why don't you break these down?
Well, so we'll come back to the logo itself in a minute, but I want to talk about the positioning first. Because when they say, "Oh, we're launching it at an art show and not an auto show," what's that for? Like that's bold. That's a big bold change, but it's without direction.
Yeah.
Like I don't see a fit there for audience versus brand. Like because we could go market anywhere. You know what? Like we could be marketing any industry through any kind of event.
Yeah.
But if we're not taking into account where the audience is, that doesn't make any sense.
It would make more sense. So if you want to get out of the auto industry, find something that's in the electrical industry. Find something that's in like regenerative energy. So find something that's closer to where you're trying to go. And if that's the approach, saying, hey, we're all electric and we make the best motors, put yourself beside the other amazing motor companies out, not automotive motor companies, like who's making the best electronics and the best motors for electric vehicles, go there.
But even then, is that where the customers are?
I don't think outside of like auto shows, I don't know. It doesn't, and I would common sense would tell me no.
Right. We talk about this a lot. This feels to me like marketing people trying to be clever.
They're too clever.
Yeah, more clever than they actually are.
Yeah.
So I don't see it. I think it's the wrong move. The actual rebrand itself is wild. So I'm going to bring this up. Here's the old logo versus the new logo.
The old logo features a Jaguar.
Yeah, it's wild to me that they dropped the cat. They've had that almost for the full history of the company.
Iconic cat.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Like when you picture like a classic Jag, you picture the hood ornament, right? Like that's
big chrome.
Yeah.
Like they're not little. Like if you haven't seen a Jag up close, these hood ornaments are sizable. They don't hide it. It's not like a little tiny little kitty cat. It's a panther. It's huge.
Yeah. So like dropping that part, like that iconic part of the logo, is a wild move to me. I could see modernizing it potentially, right? Like if you want to make some changes, go for it. But to drop it entirely, bold, probably not the right kind of bold. And so now let's talk about bold. It's funny to me that they are framing this as like breaking mold with this bold new logo, and what they've come up with is the most generic logo in the world.
I have some qualms about it, and I'm no designer. So I'll let you explain the logo, and I'll tell you what I hate about it, because it stands out.
So what do you hate about it? Is the capital G? Because I hate the capital G.
I hate the fact that you've got a capital J and a capital G, and then what you could perceive as a capital U. So you've got like three potential capitals,
and then the two lowercase a's.
Three like
and the lowercase r.
It's like, where are we? Where are we right now? Where's like the consistency?
Imagine like trying to type that out.
Imagine like, car companies want to be known for consistency. We build amazing engines. We build amazing cars. We have the best performance. There's nothing about this that screams performance. There's nothing. I don't even think it screams luxury. And Jaguars are a luxury vehicle. If there's any kind of vehicle out there that's luxury before you get to exotic, it's a Jaguar. It's a luxury. And they're trying to compete with BMW and Mercedes-Benz, two other luxury class sedans.
Yeah.
Or
companies. I agree. There's nothing that screams luxury about it. Like we could nitpick the capitals and the lower cases all we want. I think it's a goofy decision.
It's a goofy decision.
The funniest thing to me is I think it's behind the curve. They're trying.
Actually, yeah.
So I wanted to bring up a comparison, because the first thing I thought of is a logo I actually really like. It's the Pepsi logo.
Yep.
If I go and I bring up the Pepsi logo history, and you take a look at,
they're back there
all the way. Yeah,
they're back there.
Well, so the 2014 is probably.
So use your mouse so they can see where.
The mouse is right there anyway.
There.
The 2014 logo is the current logo that they still basically use on all their cans. It's fine.
That's 10 years old.
It makes a lot more sense for Pepsi when you've got like the classic rounded logo mark that compares with it. It makes tons of sense. But you're right, 10 years old.
10 years old.
And so I just don't think that leaning into a 10-year-old aesthetic
is not cutting edge. And again, go back to their words. Copy nothing. copy nothing.
Yeah.
It's 10 years old. The font is 10 years old already. And really, in another month, it'll be 12 years old or 11 years old. Sorry.
Now I don't want to say that they copied the Pepsi logo. I think it's pretty clear they didn't.
But like the font decisions, like the.
But well, like that's just, using those really rounded geometric shapes. It looks nice. Like that is a nice way to design a logo. There's just nothing bespoke or specifically luxury about it, and there's nothing mold breaking about it. So the idea that they're like trying to break boundaries, I think, is at odds with the actual design that they came up with for the logo itself. There's been a lot of controversy around the move. We're not going to get into any of that.
No, we won't. It doesn't matter.
It's just like, in marketing fundamentals, they did nothing to leverage the history of the brand, and they did nothing to appeal to their market. So what are they doing?
Yeah. And you can imagine who their market is.
Oh, yeah.
You can imagine who a luxury car. Again, BMW would be crazy to lose the white and blue, like, aircraft propeller. Like, no, because they build airplane engines. Like, they're. So yeah, I completely agree. I think they're getting a lot of hubbub.
Yep, but it's the wrong kind.
It's the wrong kind of hubbub. Like, I would have loved them to launch, like, check out this sweet new F-Type electric.
Oh,
and they'd have been like, oh wow, look at this F-Type electric. Like, this is a crazy car, and that's the hubbub with the rebrand. With the rebrand car.
You know what I would have loved to see, like a James Bond tie-in.
Oh, there's so many options,
right? Because Jags are almost kind of like Aston Martins for people who can't afford Aston Martins to begin with.
Yep.
And the fact that they're going like all electric has a high tech angle that they could have played with. I think there's a lot of cool stuff they could have done with
There's so many British superheroes too, like or like you could
superheroes.
Well, you could say like it's like a modern spy espionage superhero, like the Bourne. The entire Bourne franchise,
That's American.
Is it American?
That's
I thought
American.
he was.
No, he's American.
He's American. Oh, that's right. He's CIA. Okay, Jason Bond. Well, a lot of their films are based over in Europe, but like I would still do it. I would pair, and then James Bond is like the biggest British spy.
Before you show off any more of your film knowledge, let's move the conversation forward.
Sure. But they should have done it this way. Yeah.
Do you want to read into our next discussion topic?
I want a sweet. You want to give me a segue?
No, we don't have time for segues today. We're just moving on.
Okay. Okay, great. Aaron's got on the screen. The Loonie tanks after Trump threatens tariffs on Canadian goods. The Canadian dollar fell to its lowest point since May 2020 after Donald Trump threatened to impose tariffs on Canadian goods shipped to the United States once he takes office in January. The threat of tariffs added a further drag on the Loonie, which has been moving lower against the U.S. dollar since September. The Loonie was at 71.07 cents U.S. in late morning trading after dipping below 71 cents U.S. earlier in the day. BMO, Bank of Montreal Capital Markets senior economist Robert Kevik called the prospect of tariffs a pretty stiff headwind for the currency that's already under pressure from domestic economic factors. He says that the Canadian dollar has already weakened because of the softer economy and recent interest rate cuts by the Bank of Canada. Trump posted on Truth Social on Monday that he will impose a 25% tariff on all products from Canada and Mexico. He said the tariff will remain in place until both countries stop drugs, in particular fentanyl, and people from illegally crossing the border. And this was a report by the Canadian Press was first published just a few days ago, November 26, 2024, and this is from CTV News Business. Yes.
I've heard, so it's not mentioned in this article, I've also heard people saying that the Loonie is dropping to its lowest value in like 20 years.
Yeah, yes.
Like these,
and you can bring up those charts. Like I have the charts open.
It can't be overstated how big a drop this is in terms of the buying power of Canadians. What does a lower valued Loonie mean for Canadian businesses?
It's brutal for Canadian businesses. Like it's quite literally, your dollar just goes. So like obviously U.S. is our biggest trading partner.
Yep.
By a huge margin. And Canadian businesses and non-Canadian business, just tourism dollars, everyday citizens, if you're shopping on like anything, Canadian consumers and businesses, the dollar just goes less far, and so that your buying power is going down. It's a type of inflation where it's just like, hey, I make good money, but I can't actually do anything with it, and then it also factors into like global markets as well. Like if we have every other nation that uses the U.S. dollar as its base currency, and there's many of them out there, you just don't get to enjoy the full value of your money anymore.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting because historically, with a lower value to the Canadian dollar, there have been opportunities for selling into the U.S.
Yeah.
Because, hey, they're getting a discount when they purchase for Canadians. Now, the tariff balances that out.
Yeah, so we have no advantage here. There's
Right.
zero advantage.
How do Canadian businesses like take advantage of this situation and get ahead of it? I think there's an argument to be made for selling into other countries,
Big time.
right? So like if as the value of our dollar drops, selling into Europe, for example, makes a ton of sense because they don't have the same tariffs. Like they don't have new tariffs rather, and their currency is relatively strong compared to ours. So as the value of our currency drops, there's a lot more opportunities to sell overseas if you're in an industry that can support it.
Yep.
Right. So like if you're selling a product, it's challenging because shipping from Canada into Europe can be a real challenge. But like if you're a service-based company who can, like if you're selling online services,
IT, consulting,
yeah,
any kind of digital product. There's lots and lots of
great
lots.
opportunities to leverage the lower value of the dollar. In fact, I think some of that applies for selling into the U.S. as well because like we don't pay.
There's no tariff. It's only on goods.
Yeah.
It's
so like the drop in the value of the Canadian dollar is potentially like a strong upside for service-based Canadian businesses looking to sell in foreign markets.
We have US based clients and they love it because they feel like they're getting a deal.
Yep.
And really. They are the more their dollar strengthens, and you can play it as their dollar is stronger, our dollar is weaker.
The more that ratio.
The ratio is and that keep in mind that does not reflect how the United States dollar is in comparison to all the other currencies in the world. But just to ours, there's a huge opportunity to sell into the state, saying, hey, come buy from us, save immediately a huge chunk. Yeah,
for product companies, it's going to be more of a challenge.
Huge,
and I think. Continuing to target local audiences or increasing the value you put on local audiences is going to be really important. If you can sell to other Canadians, you're not affected by the tariffs. That's going to be really helpful.
If this was a one-time thing and we dipped a little bit, we're trending down.
Yeah. And
this is a further compound. I mean, anyone can bring this up on my screen if I like this. Great. It is. You can just see it. I've just got the trends. You can make a quick Google yourself. We're not doing great. Back in 2010, it was awesome. We were actually stronger than the dollar, the US dollar. So it was like a sweet time to buy currency. We weren't higher by much, but it's a huge swing. We're 15 years out from some highs. It's not great at all.
Interest in keeping the pacing up, I want to jump to probably the most important part of this discussion topic from our perspective. Mm-hmm. How should Canadian businesses adjust their marketing knowing that the value of the dollar is changing? Now, one of the first things I see is that in terms of paid digital ads, your dollars are going to go a lot less far than they used to because most of the online platforms bill in US dollars and you're competing with other companies spending US dollars. In fact, a lot of software as a service bills in US dollars. Yep. So
that's
a lot
your
of
Shopify.
our
that's for any of your apps in the App Store. That's for any of your email marketing tools. That's for any of your review, like all of the apps.
Yeah.
I'd say 99% of them are in USD. You're immediately going to see that reflected on your bank statement.
So with a lot of digital tools raising in price and then digital advertising raising in price because of this exchange rate change, what are you thinking? I'm thinking Canadian businesses should be looking to traditional forms of advertising.
Big time,
right?
And more like owned marketing. So if you're going to pay your email client X dollars, are you actually getting the value out of that targeting your local audience for sales opportunities? Are you looking at direct mail? Are you looking
that's
at
just traditional? I'm thinking like direct mail, physical flyers. They work.
Yep,
they're cheap. A lot of businesses aren't doing it. Bus ads, super effective if you've got a local audience. Like there's lots of opportunity to bring back traditional marketing channels that don't have as strong analytics, but still work really well, especially for a local audience. Yeah,
radio. I mean, and again, that we're talking a little level up here, but there's a ton that you can do there where you'll actually get the full value of your money.
In short, if you're not able to effectively sell into the U.S. right now, you need to focus on advertising in Canada.
Yep.
And if possible, you want to advertise in Canadian dollars rather than advertising in US dollars and getting hit by the exchange rate. And the only way you're going to achieve that is by switching to local advertising streams rather than relying on the big US companies that dominate most of the online sphere.
Yep. So just, not good news for Canadians. We'll keep you posted because the Loonie does move around a little bit. Yeah, we'll come back to that maybe next year. Give it another 6 months.
More positive note for things that are going well for Canadians. Let's talk about our next discussion topic.
Big time.
Shopify is winning Salesforce clients, stoking e-commerce rivalry. Over the past 15 years or so, Shopify Inc. has established itself as the go-to for mom-and-pop businesses looking to set up shop online. Now, in a dramatic shift, the Canadian company is targeting larger companies, and in doing so, looking to wrest e-commerce customers from Salesforce Inc. Shopify says it has lured hundreds of Salesforce clients, including big brands like Toys R Us and mattress seller Casper, and is encouraging other companies to join the mass migration. Shopify's key selling point is lower prices for its suite of e-commerce services, and it has been cheekily calling out Salesforce's penchant for wining and dining potential clients. The reason most enterprise software is so expensive is because it takes so many steak dinners to put it in your hand, Shopify CEO Kaz Nejetin, I'm not going to
COO.
COO, said in an interview. Salesforce eagerly clapped back, saying its platform offers functions that Shopify doesn't, including customer service and can better handle traffic surges. Anything's cheaper if you narrow the use case to one thing and say, oh, we're cheaper for this one thing, said Luke Ball, Salesforce's Senior Vice President of Product Management. We're still the incumbent reigning champion in the space for other companies, other companies are trying to break into. Salesforce also says it has attracted hundreds of customers from Shopify, such as Black Rifle Coffee Co., Reserve Bar, and Hasbro Inc. Shopify denies losing that many customers to Salesforce. By targeting larger retailers, Shopify is hoping to turbocharge growth, which took a hit after the pandemic e-commerce boom fizzled. The company makes much of its money selling services to its customers and is betting that the order volume generated by bigger retailers will help it grow more quickly than by relying on its existing base of mom-and-pop shops. And this is from Bloomberg. Jumping in with our first question, as Shopify partners, is any of this a surprise to us?
Competitors doing competitive things now.
I also mean like the shift to like larger stores. That's been happening for years.
It's been happening for years. The plus ecosystem's been getting developed. It's like Shopify Plus is just for larger merchants. It comes with more tools, bigger price tag.
Yep.
They've been putting more dollars in development into that product. It doesn't surprise me at all.
I mean, they've been diminishing support for their like small business.
Yep.
Ecosystem.
We see that all the time.
It's
not a surprise.
No,
it's not a surprise.
To be honest, from my perspective, this isn't even really 2024 news. This is like 2022 news that people, I guess, are getting wind of and reporting on now. But yeah, Shopify likes big business. Surprise, surprise. How does the Shopify experience differ for mom and pop businesses versus large businesses?
It's a different product. So the Shopify Plus is just it's the enterprise. That's what they call their enterprise version of Shopify. There's better support. It used to be the other way around. The mom and pops used to have amazing support, great partner support, like could talk to a live agent really, really quickly. Now that's all kind of passed on to their larger businesses, the enterprise plans. So it's a very different experience in that regard. They have currency advantages. They have international market advantages. They've got inventory location advantage. There's lots and lots of advantages on their enterprise stuff.
Well, they've got one of the big ones. They've got onboarding employees that are there to help
that too,
like develop solutions for large companies that want to onboard to the platform. You don't get any of that as like a mom and pop shop. It's all out of the box. Hope it works for you, and if you're lucky, find a good Shopify partner to work with who can stretch that a lot further.
Yeah.
I think they're very different products, and I think really they've been supporting the really big players for quite a long time while making a lot of their money on the smaller ones. It's a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
Do we think the Shopify Salesforce comparison makes much sense?
Salesforce is pretty expensive. Shopify Plus is also pretty expensive. The comparison doesn't make sense.
I don't see it.
I don't see it either.
Because is Salesforce even known as an e-commerce platform?
It's a big, in my opinion, it's a big tool. It's a huge tool.
Yeah.
It's a bloated tool. There's a lot there. It does some things really, really well.
They're known for like their like CRM and ERP, are they not?
Yep.
So like I put it in the same bucket as like any of the other platforms where it does a bunch of things because they started with some like core service offering and it just been like snowballing out from there. It's like it's very similar to like the Adobe model of like we've got one piece of software and we're just going to tack more and more and more and more on. So like, maybe people are just being colloquial. Because I was going to say like I wouldn't compare Adobe to like DaVinci. I would compare Premiere to DaVinci.
The one tool. Yes.
Right?
Yeah, not the whole versus. I completely agree.
So like a more accurate comparison would be like whatever Salesforce's e-commerce offering is compared to Shopify. Yeah. But then like
I'm not comparing Salesforce's or CRM to Shopify's non-existent CRM.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're two very different. It's you're in the bag of tools. These two tools, there's a little bit of overlap, but like you wouldn't say, hey, these are the same tool. Which one's better?
Which, to be fair, Luke Ball is calling out in the article. When he says anything's cheaper if you narrow the use case to one thing and say, oh, we're cheaper for this one thing. Well, fair enough.
That is true. It's 100% true.
Like
we talk about that
with
all the
Shopify,
time.
You're getting an e-commerce platform. You're not getting all the other things that Salesforce does. I have no idea how the breakdown works. Like, can you even buy just the e-commerce component of Salesforce? Who the heck knows? Would
you? Why? Yeah. What value does that bring?
It's not software we support. None of our clients are really on it.
We have clients that use Salesforce, but not their e-commerce version of Salesforce. Like it's CRM, it's their email marketing.
But even then, it's not the top CRM that we see in our ecosystem. No. It's not the top CRM that we support. Like Salesforce is an industry titan.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of their customers are like legacy customers that have been around forever. If you're in
hotels,
if you're in that small business range where you're like beyond a mom and pop, maybe you're like generational at this point, where you're doing a few to several $1 million a year in revenue, and you're not a startup, but you're also not like a massive legacy operation with thousands of employees. I find the businesses in that range are not looking to Salesforce solutions. They're looking for like smaller individual offerings for the CRM over here, Shopify over there, and then maybe some software to bridge the gap.
Yeah, that's super common, and I agree. Do we need to wine and dine more?
That's you know what? That's one of the takeaways from this article.
Yeah.
If Salesforce is landing massive companies by taking them to steak dinners, should we be,
If you want to come golfing with Aaron and I, if you want to go out to a steak dinner, I don't know if we should do that. I like golf. I like steak dinners. But is that how we close clients? That's not the value. And this is...
No. I think boil it down even further. Like, buy a $30,000 website, get a steak dinner.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Like, if for a project of a certain size, can we give them a gift card to the keg?
We could. Like, there's lots of businesses that do that. You buy this, normally that's not where our value comes from.
Not at all.
But I get it. For those larger clients, there is a lot of schmoozing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of schmoozing. And have I ever been in those rooms to schmooze with the VP of product or the senior vice president of product management? No, but I can imagine what happens behind those doors and how those deals get closed. And people buy from people they like.
Yeah.
So the people that schmooze end up getting liked more.
Schmoozing, not really our thing.
No.
Let's talk about something that is. Let's move on to our last topic.
Yeah.
I'll let you read us into this.
Lovely.
Sorry, I gave you the really technical one.
I know that. I'm going to read this.
It just worked out that way.
And then Aaron's going to explain it to the rest of us. So, Critical Plugin Flux boasts 4 million WordPress websites to take over. Tracked as CVE 2024 10924, CVSS score 9.8. The issue is described as an authentication bypass that allows an unauthenticated attacker to log in as any user, including an administrator. According to Defiant, the security defect exists because of an improper user check error handling in the plugin's two-factor REST API action. Specifically, the bug is triggered in two-factor authentication, so 2FA is enabled, formerly known as Really Simple SSL and used by more than 4 million WordPress sites. The Really Simple security plugin enables site administrators to add various security features, including 2FA, login protections, vulnerability detections, and more. The critical vulnerability was identified in one of the features adding 2FA, which was insecurely implemented. Explains. Sorry, scrolling up here. The function does not handle an error returned when a user verification fails, resulting in the user being authenticated based on the supplied ID, even if the identification has not been verified. Ultimately, this makes it possible for threat actors to bypass on authentication and gain access to arbitrary accounts on sites running a vulnerable version of the plugin, explains. Successful exploitation of CVE 2024-1092-4 and other authentication bypass flaws that provide access to high privileged accounts and enable threat actors to easily compromise vulnerable WordPress sites and abuse them for further attack. And this comes from Security Week. Okay, there's a lot to break in here.
Yeah.
There's a lot here. So like, great, there's a big error. They're calling it a name that I would expect an astronomer to name a planet that has never been seen before. And there's some technical stuff here. So why don't you just break it down for like, take 2 seconds and actually break this down.
If you want to have strong security on your website, you probably need two-factor authentication. So that's the ability to, so one factor is your password, and another factor would be, there could be lots of factors. Your fingerprint could be another factor. In most cases, it's a separate device that you go and get a code from, or
they text you the code.
Yeah. Yep. This flaw meant that wasn't working. So on the 4 million websites that use this plugin to allow for their two-factor authentication, there was a method that people could use to log in without having the authentication. Now they still needed login credentials, so they would have still needed to actually gain access to the account through either phishing or a brute force attack of some kind. But if they were able to get the login information for the website, they could bypass the two-factor.
Right.
Now, what does that 4 million website figure mean? Well, it means that a bunch of websites were using this unsecured version of this plugin. It does not mean that all 4 million of those websites actually suffered a data breach or any kind of attack.
They're just vulnerable. They're just, hey, you're vulnerable.
Yes.
Cool. 4 million is a lot of websites.
4 million is a lot of websites. Yeah. What's fascinating about that is, of those 4 million websites, I would bet that a large portion will continue to be vulnerable to that attack, potentially for years, because of how many small businesses we see not updating their WordPress plugins on a regular basis. So they are using a plugin to increase the security of their website. Because of a flaw in that plugin, they are missing out on some of the security provided by it. The developers of the plugin have released an update to solve the vulnerability. And then some portion of those websites will not update and will miss out on that added security, and they're going to continue being vulnerable.
We see that all the time, by the way. Super common. You go into the back of someone's WordPress and there's like a zillion plugins and like...
Yep. In our technology consulting, this is one of the most common things we've seen. We see businesses that have a WordPress website that was built by some developer they no longer have an active relationship with. Everything is out of date. We're not in a position to update it because it's not an ecosystem we're familiar with. It's someone else's plugin ecosystem. And if we update all the plugins, the entire website might break. So you've got businesses in a position where they're just letting vulnerabilities pile up because upgrading their plugins involves other risks, and no one understands how that whole ecosystem fits together. So what this means for us in a lot of cases, we end up building sites from the ground up and then just switching people over to an infrastructure that we know is current and know is secure. This particular plugin isn't one that's in our tech stack.
No.
So like if you had a website built by 2H Media, you don't need to worry about this plugin. We're not using it. If you've got someone else managing your website now, they might have installed it. So that would be a question for them. Because we do see clients installing plugins that we didn't recommend once in a while. Not too many, but we get the occasional client that wants to really run with things and do them themselves.
As a heads up, if we did have something go wrong with some of our tech stack, you wouldn't be finding out about it here. We would be calling you.
Oh yeah.
And sending you an email. And you would know very quickly from this guy, we need to have a chat. Here's what's going on.
Yeah.
So you're never going to find out news that negatively affects you
through our stream.
Through
this.
No,
that'd be crazy.
So like,
now that said,
make that very clear.
That said, even if we were using this plugin on our websites, this wouldn't be this wouldn't be cause for concern, right? Because we would just say, yep, the plugin's been updated to the latest version. They patched the security hole. You're a local Canadian business. The odds of some international hacker trying to gain access to your website relatively limited to begin with, and the window on which people could have used this vulnerability also relatively limited.
And that goes back to like, that's part of working with us.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to keep that infrastructure up to date. It's part of a website does need attention.
Yep.
And if you're not going to treat it like your storefront, if you're not going to sweep the floor every night, if you're going to let it go, bad things are going to happen.
Now, what should businesses take away regarding website security? This is actually the most interesting part of this whole conversation to me. no website is completely secure. And no website is completely secure forever. If you want to have the best security, you need a website that is carefully managed by people that are on payroll managing that website all the time. This is a great argument to use managed platforms like Shopify, where they've got like a massive infrastructure of people that are
every day
on the clock,
they are on
making
it
sure
every
that
day.
system runs the way it needs to. It's an e-commerce platform, so they're thinking about security for things like credit cards,
customer data, all that stuff.
Yeah. You know, with WordPress is a great platform, but if you're going and installing random third-party plugins, you have no idea how secure those are. You have no idea how well maintained those are. But then even in that best case scenario, even in that Shopify scenario where you've got like a very walled garden ecosystem where the Shopify App Store is the App Store and that's all vetted by Shopify and the platform is controlled by Shopify and you've got a lot of trust there, things like this can still happen. Big companies can be surprised, and then when they get on it, they roll out updates and they try to fix things. If you look at the CrowdStrike issue that happened a few months ago, when all those Windows computers went down,
that was managed software. They had people on the ground all the time. So it can still go wrong.
Yeah.
So
the reason I bring this up is we see like a lot of when we're looking at like RFPs from like local municipalities and things, we see a lot of companies saying, we need high security for the website. And I think a lot of people who are asking for it don't understand what they're actually asking for. Because it either means nothing or it means something impossible. Because there are basic security steps that like any web developer should be taking. I would say the web developers that installed really simple security for their clients did a good thing. Even though some of the functionality of that plugin had a window where it didn't work properly, they were still better off having that plugin and all of the benefits it provides overall, especially if they keep it up to date. And
it's the up to date part that's
right?
the problem.
But it also means that like, great, you install this software, that doesn't mean you're totally secure. It's better, but it's always an uphill battle. It means that you really still need to stay on your employees about things like phishing emails. Right? Because the best security to avoid someone being able to access your website because your two-factor's not working is for no one to have your passwords that's not supposed to.
Proper password management. Don't be writing your stuff down in a book. Don't be sharing stuff. Don't be sharing login information.
Don't be repeating passwords.
If you find a USB key in your parking lot, don't plug it into your computer.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not just free. We don't know where that's been. We don't do that stuff. So there's like a whole bunch of things that go into proper security. And normally now it's they're hacking people. Yeah. They're going to trick the person into doing it. They're not going to hack the back end of Facebook. They're going to convince the person that, I'm the CEO, buy me a gift card, or I'm going to convince the person to do this. And not in this case, it's actually a flaw in the software. But again, regarding security, it's got to be more full featured than, we've got an app that handles that, because that's one piece of a very large pie. So some tips, Aaron. Give us 3 tips.
Well, we just kind of hit a bunch of the core ones. But the main takeaway to my mind though is, if you don't care about security, then that's fine. You don't care about security. Some websites, it's way more important than others. If you don't sell anything through your website, it's probably much less of an issue.
If you are a lawyer and you've got a simple website and it explains your services, there's no client portal, you're not accepting documents through it, it's just a website with information, there's not a whole lot that can go wrong. Yes, there are things that can go wrong, but you're not gonna have customer
there's
data
some
information.
basics. So in that case, I would ask my web developer, does my contact form store messages on the website? Or do they just get sent straight to the email? Because
that's a great question.
Because some contact forms store it on WordPress and then send it, and some just send it. And if you're a lawyer, you probably don't want the contents of those contact forms being potentially vulnerable because you have poor security on your WordPress site. So, what I was going to say, if there's a key takeaway from this, it's have a dialogue with your web developer about what makes sense for your business. And don't go in saying, we need the most secure website in the world, or we don't care about security. Just have a conversation about some security features that are possible, what that could look like, and what the limitations of those features are. Because if you go to a web developer and you say, I want a website that's secure, and the web developer says to you, absolutely, I'll make you a website that's secure, and you don't understand the steps they're taking in order to create that security, number one, it's probably a lot less secure than you think it is, because nothing is perfectly secure. And number two, you probably don't have the policies in place that you require to patch the biggest security vulnerability of all, which is your team giving out information that they shouldn't be, or creating vulnerabilities through things like repeat passwords.
On top of the fact, your website ages fairly quickly. So what's secure today is not necessarily secure tomorrow.
Yeah.
And this is an ongoing battle. So if you really, really care about security, there should be ongoing budget to say, okay, great, here's the next thing that we care about. There should be a little bit of a roadmap around here's what needs to take place. We would never expect the client to say, here's what we actually need to do. It's like Aaron says, it's the dialogue.
Yeah.
If you just want a website and walk away with it, it is secure, and then 2 days later it is not.
Yep.
That's the way it goes. That's the way the world
You need
works.
to build a relationship with your web developer. You need to work with someone who's willing to have conversation with you and get to know your business.
Yeah.
With that in mind, if anything we talked about today resonates with you, or you think that you could benefit from the services of an agency like ours, I would encourage you to book a free strategy session with one of our experts. We'll take the time to get to know your business, develop a plan that makes sense for you, and answer your burning questions so that you can move forward with confidence and clarity. If that sounds impactful, then book a strategy session. And in the meantime, thanks for watching.
Take care.